Hello everybody and welcome back. So for those of you who don't know, this used to be a 2000 Murray LT1000 wide body riding lawnmower that I got for free off of a neighbor down the street. Since then, I've removed the cutting deck, lowered the frame, raised the engine, widened the body, built a custom battery box on the back side, and most recently built a custom exhaust header on the front side. The goal this week is to get it driving. And I don't know how far I'll be able to drive, I don't know how long I'll be able to drive, but the main goal is to sit on it, start it up, and make it move under its own power. I feel like that's a pretty low bar to hit, a pretty attainable goal. And there's a couple things that I need to do to be able to achieve that. First thing being our exhaust. This thing is obnoxiously loud with the open header, but I got a new muffler ordered on Amazon. It should be here shortly. We're gonna get that welded on, and it also comes with an exhaust wrap, so we're gonna put the exhaust wrap on there, and that'll help keep our carburetor from getting overheated with the header running right next to it. The next thing I'm going to address is the belt. If you remember way back, when we got our clutch assembly and everything reinstalled down there, the belt seemed like it was a little tight, so I'm gonna have to get the body off of here, and we're gonna start it up and do some testing with the belt installed, and I may have to go with a 1-inch larger belt or figure out if I can do some adjustments on my clutch assembly and make what I have work, which obviously that would be ideal, save myself a $20 belt, but we'll see how it works out. And one of the last things I wanted to do is give myself a little bit more room on the brake lever. I want to cut this slot up about another 1.5 inches or so, and that'll give me just a little bit more pressure to be able to apply to the brakes to make sure I got enough stopping force when I'm moving. So first things first, let's get the header off of here. As soon as the muffler comes in, we're gonna weld it on, get the exhaust wrap on, and then we'll be able to start this up, see how it sounds before we start tearing it down to the frame and messing with the belt and all that stuff. So let's get right into it. All right, the muffler has arrived, and I held off on removing the header because I wanted to be able to cut the threads off of this and tack it in place and make sure I have fitment with my clutch pedal before I pull it off and put a full bead on it. So, let me get the threads cut off of this. We'll get it on here. It'll be right around there. And that'll give us plenty of room for the clutch pedal. All right, now that I got my muffler cut down, I can mock it up, make sure my clutch pedal's not gonna hit it, and also make sure it looks level. And now I can tack it in place. Last final check. Looks like everything's good. So now we can actually pull that header off, put a full bead around the muffler, and then we'll start working on everything else. There it is. And I may be slightly biased, but I do think it looks half decent. The only problem is I got so excited to get it back on and see how it looked that I didn't put the exhaust wrap on it. So I'm gonna get it back off there and we'll work on that. All right, so in my fast and wild research on doing exhaust wrap, I learned a couple things. One, use gloves. It's got fiberglass in it and it's extremely annoying when it gets into your skin. It's very irritating and uncomfortable. Second thing is to soak it in water. So that's what I have right here. It's nice and soaked, and this should help us give a nice tight wrap when we get it onto the exhaust. All right, so to get the wrap started, I'm gonna fold the end in half. Get it right here. And that way, as I wrap around the exhaust, it's gonna cover up that starting point and hide it. And I'm leaving about a quarter inch of I'm leaving about a half inch of overlay, which is more than necessary, but I think I have quite a bit of extra wrap here that I'm gonna need to use up.
Go, you go!
All right, that covers up all the important parts. I'm gonna put a couple steel clamps down here at the bottom to hold the end tight, and we should be good to go. All right, well, the wrap is on there. It's all finished. These stainless zip ties are absolute garbage, so I'm gonna go run and grab some hose clamps. We'll throw those on and get it mounted back on the engine. All right, now that I got my hose clamps, I'm gonna start with the top one. Top side's done. Now I'm gonna clip the stainless zip tie, get that out of the way. I'm gonna fold the corners in on my wrap at the end here, and then put one hose clamp right over the center of it. I'm gonna get this started and pretty close to snug. That way, once I get the ends folded over on my wrap, I can just slide this right over and tighten it down. Go, now just tighten it down. All right, there you have it. Our exhaust is fully welded, wrapped, and ready to go back on. And there we go. Got it reinstalled and everything's looking dandy. Let's put some jumper cables on this and fire it up and see what it sounds like. Alright, I got the forklift running so I can jump start the battery. I'm gonna hit the air filter with some starting fluid and we'll turn it over and see what happens. All right, well, a couple main takeaways from what just happened. For one, the exhaust is a lot better. The sound is much more bearable. The heat as well. I can have my hand almost cupped completely around the exhaust pipe and it's totally bearable. It's not too hot. The last thing is the throttle return. I noticed it seemed to be holding at a pretty high RPM, just idling. And when I was fidgeting around with it, I tried backing out the idle set screw. It didn't seem to adjust anything, but when I actually put force on it to force it back into idling position on the carburetor, it seemed to really help out. So I think I need to replace the return spring for the carburetor. Right now I got a flimsy one. So maybe a little bit beefier return spring on the carburetor. That'll get us holding at a steady idle. But in the meantime, let's get this body off of here, figure out what's going on with the belt, see if we can use the belt that we have and just make some clutch adjustments, or if we do need to fork up the 20 bucks and go grab the little bit larger belt. So let's get this body off and we'll start checking it out. All right, let me show you how I got this set up. So I got my console mounted back on. As you can see, the key is not in there, but I do have my throttle cable right here. So I'll be able to adjust the throttle while it's running. Got the battery back in there. Right here, I have a jumper wire that goes from a spot on the frame back there right up here to the frame on the starter solenoid, which I have zip tied to the console since that whole lower pan is completely missing now. And otherwise everything's still hooked up. I got my battery hot right there, key plug, everything's hooked up. Kill switch is the yellow wire. So we're ready to go. I got to get the 5,000 pound jump box over here and we'll get this thing fired up, take a look at the pulleys and see what's going on when we push the clutch. See if we got enough slack in there to idle it and not have our wheels turn while it's in gear with the clutch pushed. So let's fire it up and see what's going on. Alright, it's just not going to work with the current belt that I have on there. It seems like there's still a little too much friction. It's still gripping the pulleys on the front and back pretty well. So I believe what I have right now is a 1/2 inch by 87 inch V-belt. I'm going to run down to Tractor Supply and I'll see if I can find a 1/2 inch by 88 inch and then we'll get back and throw that on here and try it out. While I'm down there, I'm also going to see if I can pick up a throttle return spring. Alright, I got a new 88 inch V-belt, 1 inch larger than the previous, and I got a new throttle return spring for the carburetor. So let's throw these on there and we'll try it out. I got everything reinstalled. I got the mower up on blocks and strapped to the table. So I'll be able to start it up, put it in gear, and try out the clutch and see if everything works. So let's give it a shot. Okay, dead battery, right. All right, well, I think that warrants a test drive. This seems to be working all right. I was able to hold the tires. It did take a little bit of force, but I think with the weight of the body and my body and everything else on it, friction, all that good stuff, I think it should hold in place and do all right. Right now, everything's up in the air, and I was able to just lean across and hold both tires, and it would stop. There were a couple times when the engine surged, and it would kind of grip the belt and want to spin them. But it wasn't a crazy amount of force. I think it'd be all right. So I say we start putting this thing back together, get it out on some flat ground, and go for a test drive. All right, well, that was a lot of fun, just as much as I thought it would be. I'm glad everything came together just right. There's a little bit of tightness on the belt. It seems to lurch forward in the low gears where it's got more torque. But once I get it up in 6th gear, I can idle with the clutch pushed in and it's not going anywhere. So everything's fantastic. We're moving on to the next step. Thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like what you see. Leave me a comment if you got something on your mind. And subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
Well, that's not bad.